I brought that song into the room because I just came back from a week ago from the Black Maternal Health Conference hosted by the Black Mamas Matter Alliance. And it was such a big thing about, Beyonce's new album and what favorite songs folks had. And it was a mix in the room. Some folks are like, listen, I haven't even listened to that. I'm not a super fan. I'm not in the Beehive. And some folks are like, we're on Anita Baker. They were on, various songs, but I thought bring in some good energy into the room. So I want to thank you all for coming today to our offering. My name is Audra Jones. I am a public health leader and a reproductive justice and Black infant and maternal health advocate. And I am one of the founding members of the Black Doula Consortium. And so this is for our second year of these offerings. This is our second event of the Black Doula Consortium. I'm also a host and facilitator of these events, a public health professional, like I told you, a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend, and that can consistently be found doing work within my community to advocate for equity in healthcare for many underserved people locally, statewide, and nationally. As well, I have done work within my LA County to ensure that Black women and birthing people are served, as well as infants and fathers, by starting the first South LA, South Bay AIM, which is a community action team and a model of 50-50 partnership between community and government to reduce rates of infant mortality and morbidity in the African American and Black community. So just a quick recap about the Black Doula Consortium and our first event this year. The Black Doula Consortium is an initiative we started a little over a year ago, and it brought together community doula organizations from Northern and Southern California and from the Central Valley in an effort to strengthen California's Black health equity network by providing resources to doulas and birthing persons, raising awareness of health inequities, and listening to Black voices and having these types of conversations and events. Our events discuss Black infant and maternal health topics and doula and professional topics, and really perinatal health related topics. The previous events are recorded and available at www.blackwpc.org. That's the Black Wellness and Prosperity Center website. With the support of Blue Shield of California, we, the partners of BDC, with BWPC, Diversity Uplifts Inc., and Frontline Doulas, as well as myself, are really focused in these second series on providing strategic support for doulas across the state of California and serving as platforms for education, coalition building, and again, elevating the Black voice. Today, we have two doulas from California who we will be introducing you to, Breyonna Gaines-Barrett and Kairis Chiaji, and they will walk us through their own stories, their various services as doulas, that their certificates allow them and their experience allow them to offer a regular day in their life with clients and folks that they serve, considerations for those who are interested in becoming a doula, resources, and more. They might be able to tell you a bit of their advocacy work that they're doing and what they've been doing to engage, especially for those that are looking to expand Medi-Cal and doula services. I just want to drop in the chat for just a second, just in case there were any questions, comments. Feel free to drop in your information, your name, where you're from. We would love to know where you're from. If you have an email or your organization that you'd like to share, we would love to have that as well. Just some ground housekeeping rules. We are recording today. So if you do not want to be on camera, if you don't want your name on camera, you can, X out, rename yourself and put an X there. You can go off camera. Also, if you can do us a favor and be sure to mute unless you're speaking, or we will just, graciously mute you if the background is interfering with the speakers and the conversation. So again, thank you all for being here. We appreciate that. So without further ado, because we are going to move through and then make sure we have enough room for questions and answers. I'd like to introduce, let me bring her up to the stage first and foremost. And I'm gonna bring both of us to this conversation. All right. So I want to take this time to introduce our first guest to you. Her name is Kairis. She is a birth doula, educator, and advocate, as well as a consultant. She is the owner of Braids, Bits, and Babies, and is on a mission to lower
What is this? Black Doula Consortium.
mortality and morbidity in the African American community by increasing the number of culturally competent birth workers, helping them grow their businesses in this field, and mentoring them in engagement. Braids, Bits, Beads, Babies, and other Beatitude Services, that's the full name, is a sole proprietorship umbrella for a number of businesses, including catering, jewelry sales, and natural hair art. You know, we got to have them multiple streams of income. It affords Kairis the flexibility to pursue her passion. Baby got backup birth support services. As a professional and community doula herself, she also provides birth support, education, and advocacy for birthing families. Kairis began her practice as a birth coach in 1999 in Sacramento and continues to serve in Northern California. She and her global cohort know this humble and hard work saves lives. Her motto, there are millions of unplanned pregnancies, but there never has to be an unplanned birth. Kairis also has the honor of being the national trainer for doulas seeking the Birthing Project USA certification. I love it, Mama Cat. And currently serves on the BPUSA Board of Directors. She is also a foundation member elect for the Sacramento Black Chamber of Commerce for 2021 through 2024 term. And because she also finds time for fun and self-care because they're necessary, Kairis makes time for daily training with her horses, Nami and Nayusi, correct me if I'm wrong, and she does that, folks, in her heels. Welcome to the stage, Kairis Chiaji. Thank you. You're on mute, boo.
Thank you, Audra, and thank you everyone for coming. It is such an honor to be at a point in history where the word doula is being not just, explained when somebody says, what's that, but actually being put out there, put forward, because it's really important work. As she said, my name is Kairis. If you want one of the top 10 names that are butchered in life, you can add mine to that list. I became a doula by accident. And I say that because it was not something that I knew had a name. It was not something I knew that you could pursue and do on purpose. In fact, it was the same Mama Cat that Audra mentioned who actually pulled me off of my administration position and sent me to a hospital to go find some lady that I didn't know, that didn't know me. And she told me to be with her during her birth. And I did it because she was the person who also signed my paychecks. So you obey the boss. And I came away from there with a nurse at that hospital here in Sacramento who said, you should go get certified. I didn't know what that meant. She gave me information on his training. I didn't know what that meant, but I registered for the training and I showed up and it was like, oh, wow, this is a thing. And then it was like, no, this is my thing, to get to be with someone who's not just having a baby, but birthing themselves into a new stage of life. And it doesn't matter if it's your first child or your 10th child. I've been at both types of births. There is a shift that happens. And so to get to walk a woman, a sister, through that process, to be side by side with her, to remind her to breathe, to hold her hand, to hold space for the plan that she had before the pain ever began. That same work that we do as sisters all over life, I get to do that in a birth setting. One of the things that I am able to do in the course of supporting a birth is to help mamas get their babies latched on for nursing, for breastfeeding, for body feeding, human milk feeding, all of the names that are out there. I'm old school. We only had one word back then and it was milk, right? So getting those babies to the milk. And it's such a critical part of the bonding and the relationship, because that little person has never, ever been separated from the body that it grew inside of before. And so this is the way to reconnect, to reattach. You've got that heartbeat that they grew under, you've got all of these things, and the sustenance, sustaining, the nurturing that happens there. So that is one of my favorite parts, that first latch. But there are things that happen before and after that. Like, everybody thinks birth plan means getting the baby from inside to outside, but there is labor planning, which I am keenly aware of the necessity for. I think sometimes folks don't know what labor is going to be. They don't know what they're looking for to know when to go to deliver, wherever they're going to deliver. I've heard people say, I think I'll just go to the hospital when it hurts, right? But we know that's a lot of hours that can be, and nobody wants to live at the hospital for 20 or 36 hours without a plan and without having an element of control of what's happening around their bodies, as their body is doing a pretty big job. I also get to focus quite a bit on postpartum care planning, which I think also gets lost in the sauce. Like, once we get the baby on the boob, then we're like, okay, yay, we're done, pregnancy's over, right? But we've birthed this whole entire new person, completely new creation hormonally, right? And so there needs to be a plan for that care too. I also do a thing that I call training dad doulas, because I need that dad, I need that father, that partner, that person, whoever's the other being that's creating the balance on the side of this little human that's coming into the world. I need that person to be able to do what I do if I happen not to be there. Not like fully, not like now he or she can go and coach all the babies in the world. That's not it. But just so that at the end of the story, the couple had a baby and not just the mom. So those are things that I particularly focus on when I'm working with new clients. At this point in my life, 23 years into being a community and professional doula, I have the awesome privilege of being able to work with an amazing organization called Her Health First under Black Mothers United, in partnership with Blue Shield of California. And they said, listen, it's good work, go do it. And you can provide this service, this support to anyone in your community who wants a doula, and they don't have to pay for it, right? Blue Shield covers the costs of running a program like that. And so it is an incredible privilege. It means a different skill set than just being my own private practice doula, where I don't have to do anything that doesn't make sense to me. You know, funders like their data, right? So there's assessments and things like that happen, and you're tracking what kinds of births. So all of the things that we see and sense and feel that need to be corrected in birthing settings are now documented, right? It's hard to assign numbers to feelings, but we're really good with our words. And so we're able to really tell the stories of the bodies behind the babies. So that is the newest venture. It began in 2021. We are in our second year, rounding out our second year, looking forward to the spring, where there are even more babies coming. And so I'm thinking about the question of what someone might consider if they were wanting to become a doula. The first thing you consider is your community, your supports, right? Your self-care, your schedule, your ability to manage something as unmanageable as labor and delivery. So building your circle, even when I became a doula, I was a single mom with children, but I had a strong community for childcare. I had a strong community who understood birthing hours. You know, babies don't come during business hours. The well-behaved ones do, but a lot of them, you know, they're coming at whatever time. You're on call 24/7. And so that requires that you have support, and not just that you have support, but that you engage it, right? You have to shed that superwoman complex if you're going to last any amount of time in a field that does so much giving. Because when you think about other care providers connected to a birthing family, the doula literally spends the most hours with the birthing family. So that's a lot going out. You got to find your thing going in. Your self-care has to happen, and you can't just talk about it, right? You have to schedule it. You have to commit to it. You have to invest in it. You have to build a circle of accountability to it. Somebody who's going to say, hey, did you do your thing? Whatever your thing is. Your thing might be completely different from mine, right? Even the idea of self-care, a lot of times people think, oh, it's toenails and fingernails and keeping my hair done. And maybe for some folks that is, maybe that's what gives them their life. I keep my toenails painted because my husband has to look at my feet, God bless him. So that's not self-care for me. That is just part of regular relationship maintenance. I'll say that, it's investing in my relationship. But the thing that I want to do the most is to fuel myself. I can't pour out of an empty vessel. We've heard that our whole lives, and yet there's so often that we forget and we try. So those are things to really, really, really think about. I would also say that if you want to go into this field, you really need to think about where your passion is, like which part of it. Again, I'm old school, way back, decades ago when I became a doula, it was a round name for the people who did all the things, the prenatal, the labor, the delivery, the postpartum. Now there's so much specialties. It allows people to really walk in their giftings and in their passions for which part. Maybe your thing is postpartum. Maybe that is the part that you love the most, to make sure that her meal train is set up, that she's not struggling with things that a doctor won't see and maybe won't even see then at a 6-week checkup. The opportunity to watch these babies come into the world, to really sort of facilitate this brand new relationship from outside, but from having the opportunity to know someone well enough to see when something is off, to see when something is different, to see when there's a need, even if it's unspoken. You might want to be the lactation specialist, the person. I have taken those trainings, and so it is a beautiful, wonderful thing to be able to get going. But sometimes it takes that person who can give as much time to breastfeeding as someone like myself would give to labor and delivery, right? Because we know, if we don't know, we should know, if breastfeeding's not easy, it's really, really hard. There's no middle ground there. So there are all kinds of ways to specialize. There are doulas who support families who've suffered loss or who choose not to continue a pregnancy, as limited as that choice may have become in recent times. But whoever you are, however your pregnancy ends, at some point, there's the same postpartum care that is needed, the change in hormones, right? Whatever emotions, whatever chemicals in the brain, whatever things are happening, there is the same level of support needed at the end of any pregnancy for any reason. And so there are women out there who do that. Sometimes moms need a way to have closure, even if you're thinking on the fly and come up with something that allows her to acknowledge that there was a child and that it grew in her body, and whatever happened after the fact, that she gets to acknowledge that without shame and without any fear of showing whatever's there from it. If it's relief, then she's able to show that. If it's grief, then she's able to show that. If it's a combination of all of them, if it's dealing with family dynamic, whatever the things are that happen at the end of a pregnancy, there needs to be someone there to coach. Someone in my social media world said that your doula is your perinatal bestie. And I love that. I love that idea because it certainly explains the role. When folks ask me for a breakdown of what being a doula is, I compare it to being a personal trainer, but for childbirth, for labor, delivery, for childbirth, right? So your personal trainer knows what your body is capable of. Your personal trainer knows what things it needs to grow in an ability. It knows when too much is too much. It can recognize when something's not right. Your personal trainer can recognize an injury and refer you to the person who can address it. Your personal trainer is never going to do a surgery on your rotator cuff, but they would certainly recognize when it's been torn or injured in some way, right? And they refer you to your orthopedic surgeon. So your birth coach is that same thing, your personal trainer for childbirth, to help you remember the plan, help you to remember to breathe, and to go from there, to grow into that relationship that changes daily, that changes by the moment, just like that little cluster of cells changes by the moment, so does the body that's carrying it. So I think that is about it, and until there are questions, which I am happy to field later on. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Kairis. Everyone, please give Kairis Chiaji a round of applause for her share, and we definitely will be bringing her back to further this conversation. So stay with us. And let me see, I gotta get you gotta work this system here. Let me see, I'm gonna add to the spotlight. Okay, perfect. Thank you again, Kairis. And so we'll be bringing you back for more conversation. So again, thank you all. For those of you who joined late, we want to thank you for being here and appreciate your presence. I am going to bring my next speaker up to the platform and introduce her, and we're going to hear from her, and then we'll open it up for questions and answers. Just let me locate Miss Breyonna again on this. Hold on. Okay, wait a minute. All right.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet everyone and see everyone.
Hold on one second.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm gonna do your bio, and then.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yes, I want to tell them all about you. Okay. So again, I want to introduce you all to Breyonna Gaines of Maya Bees, and make sure I say that right, or you can reintroduce birthing services. Breyonna's background in education: she has a BA in cultural anthropology from Cal State University, Fresno. She is a birth and postpartum doula trained by Dona International. She's also a traditional postpartum birth worker from the NAFSA Project School, or NAFSA. Ever since she was a little girl, she dreamed of working with families and babies. She was inspired to become a doula. After a few years of obtaining a significant portion of her educational goals and tirelessly working around the clock, she finally received her formal doula training. While working on her degree in anthropology, she realized she wanted to take a unique path to improve the social determinants of health for the people in her community. Becoming an anthropology major helped to strengthen her connection to the Valley and deepen her understanding of the importance of community health. The inspiration for her career choice, and ultimately the name of her business, comes from the birth of her first daughter, Amaya, aka Maya, and the experience of being pregnant with little to no resources. When Breyonna is not working as a doula, she continues with other community-based work, like being a certified community health worker with the COVID-19 Equity Project, volunteering, and being a mother to her two wonderful girls. Without further ado, welcome Breyonna Gaines-Barrett to the stage, and we will hear from her now. Thank you, Breyonna.
Oh, no, thank you so much, everyone. I'm glad everyone's here in this space, taking time to get to know us and our work. Sorry, you might hear my two little girls in the background, so try to keep them quiet for you guys. But yeah, again, very honored to be in this space. Like mentioned, I am a birth and postpartum doula. I'm also a certified placenta encapsulation specialist. And I've been doing this, gosh, it's been like 6 or 7 years now. I can't believe it's gone so fast. I still have so much to learn, but it's been a wonderful journey thus far, and I can't wait to keep going. Like mentioned before, yes, I did graduate from Fresno State, and I had a host of wonderful experiences, wonderful professors that really inspired me to, take a deeper look at what was happening in my own life, what was happening in my family, and in the community that I was living in. And yeah, that's definitely for me been inspirational. I've gotten a chance to work with so many families and help them go through their journey into parenthood, whether that's their first baby or fourth or fifth baby or such and so forth. And it's been a really great experience for me. Let's see, a day in the life of a doula, like it's always busy. You never know necessarily what you're gonna get for the day. You get lots of families calling, not really sure where they even really need to begin. You get families calling that aren't yet pregnant, but are looking to sort of plan things out and, just have questions. So I'm happy to be able to answer any questions that I can for families. Sometimes people inquire about my own experiences in becoming a mother and sort of the hardships I faced in those situations. But to me, it's phenomenal just to be able to support families, being able to provide resources and hold space for them as they're moving through their journey. I love it. I feel like I wouldn't change it for anything. It's been really, really great. I've been able to partner with several organizations and get to work with families I wouldn't normally come into contact with. And so to me, that's awesome. For me, that I'm still continuing to learn and just kind of put myself out there and get to see all the things maybe that I wouldn't see. To me, it's really great. I'm so honored to be able to be in this space as a doula. And I feel like without the support that I had to, go and sort of venture into a new career path, I might have been a little too timid to do it, but I'm definitely glad I had my support, my grandmother, my husband, my kids, my mom, helping me to just continue to learn more and to just be out there and to see that, there's a lot of families that need resources and they don't necessarily know where to start. They don't even necessarily know what questions to ask. And I think that's great too. Like that's something that we can work with. And if there are things that, we may come into contact with or hear about that I may not necessarily have the answer, you bet I'll definitely try to pinpoint some other folks that are there to help some of these families. Let's see. For me, I also, like I said, do placenta encapsulation. And that's something that I don't quite know how many folks in the Central Valley are doing that. But that's kind of been something that I had always wanted to do, but just really wasn't sure how to get into it. But I found some great help in that. And I have a phenomenal teacher. She's a continuous resource for me, even to this day. I can shoot her questions if I have questions about things. And she is just right there really helping me in my journey. So I'm very appreciative of all the mentors and folks that I've worked with or been blessed to, come across, in this journey. Let's see. I think that the biggest struggle I would say here in the Central Valley for me being a doula was really kind of, how do I say it? Not everybody's familiar with what a doula is. And so that, that's a struggle in itself. Letting people know or showing people that birth doesn't always have to be, what you see or, what you hear about, it can be its own, special time. And really, I just want to be able to honor those families that are seeking the resources, that are seeking the help, that want support, that want to feel cared for. I use a lot of essential oils in my practice. So that's really great, helping families just learn or to work on just relaxation, being relaxed in the moment, whether that's in our prenatal sessions or whether that's postpartum. And just letting them know, you got this, you can do this, like trust yourself. Continue to ask questions. If you come across something that you don't know, there are a host of people that should be able to answer your questions, and you should feel comfortable asking any of your support team questions, right? And sometimes you're going to come across physicians or practitioners that have, a different mindset or different way to go about things. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is okay to question. It is okay to ask questions. It is okay to, write things down before you go to doctor's appointments. It's okay to, take in that information that they're giving you, sit on it, think about it, ask more questions, if there's something that you don't agree with. I love talking through those conversations with families when they say, hey, my doctor said this or suggested this procedure, but I don't know what that is. And they really didn't explain that to me. And again, I am not a medical doctor, so there are many questions that I cannot answer, but we can help to, have a starting point to really be able to ask those questions. And so for me, continuing to be curious, continuing to be confident, and knowing that this is your pregnancy, it is your body, and really just being able to be comfortable and confident. There's nothing to me more exciting than to get to see a family really actively working to sort of plan things out and get things situated as the family is, nesting, as they're, gathering supplies, as they're, just excited, even seeing nervous, looks on their faces, when, they come across things they've never heard about before. But again, just wanting to always lend a helping hand when possible. And even if I am not a family's doula, still just trying to be a resource to those folks in the community that may call me, ask me questions, and just be able to provide my services. I've also have tended to offer my services free of charge because there wasn't a lot of resources for some folks, and people have contacted me and said, I really don't have much money, I'm a single parent, I've got health conditions. So that is something that I have done. And when possible, I definitely do it, because I was a mom, wanting a doula for my first pregnancy, and I wasn't able to afford one. And to me, that was heartbreaking, because I knew the resources that I needed and wanted for my pregnancy, for my birth, for my postpartum care. And to me, again, it was very, very heartbreaking to not be able to be in contact with the resources that I felt that I needed. I had my daughter in college, so I was still managing a full-time job, going to school full-time with a brand new baby and breastfeeding. And I am so grateful for my professors. Again, I love anthropology. I got into that major on accident, to be quite honest. And to me, looking back on it, it wasn't an accident. Like it was perfect, because I had professors that really understood what I needed and what I wanted to do. And they were really able to help guide me. And again, help me sort of build up my confidence, because it was sort of a new journey that I was sort of starting. And so I look forward to just being able to answer questions that people have, people wanting to become doulas. I get a lot of dads actually calling because, their wife is needing some support, and they realize that they just don't have the expertise in that area. So I love that. I'm like, I get so excited. I'm like, yes, I'm glad you called. Like, thank you for sending me emails, and just wanting to make sure that your partner has the support. And that's really beautiful, because I'm like, you can do so much more when you have the support, when you've got your childcare in place, when you've got a solid, plan for your education if you're going to school or wanting to get into school. So really, to me, even though I am a doula, I'm like, we do so much. And to me, it's really, from the heart. And let's see, I feel like as a doula, I really have a just a really just fun time. It's fun. It's hard work. Yes, it is. You're up long hours. Babies are born, all times of the day and night. And just sort of reassuring families that it doesn't matter if it is 1 or 2 in the morning and you have questions, or you think you're in labor, call me, text me. I am here all the time. I don't ever want you to feel alone or like you're, taking up too much space. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you and really reassure you. Again, if people have questions, I'm always trying to just answer those questions to the best of my ability. And again, if they need resources, some folks need resources, for housing. Some people need resources for breastfeeding, and some need a tutor for their math class, while they're, pregnant, and they're just like, look, I need help. I don't really know where to begin. And so just being able to sort of build up my connections in the community, to me is awesome. Keeping a resource list that I share with families who need them, and just, I don't know, just working, just continuing to work and serve the families here in the Central Valley. So I love it. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so very much. I'm going to invite Kairis back to the stage. Thank you so much, Breyonna, for your share. We're just going to have a few questions and answers and conversation. So definitely, folks, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We also have some questions that we had kind of asked just to them as they walk through their own story. And so it was great to hear of your stories and how you got involved in the work. From Kairis, you getting involved based upon your relationship and working with Mama Catherine Trujillo, and who is just simply amazing and definitely has done a lot of work, especially I'm familiar with her work with Charles Drew University, taking many of the students, medical students, over to Cuba to look at their system of healthcare. And then you as well, Breyonna, sharing your story and how it was important to obtain the resources and how you named your business after your first daughter. And then the work that you're doing, both of you are looking at the self-care and the options available for clients, and making this what we believe to be important for Black folks is having a celebratory occasion. That birthing and pregnancy should be celebratory. Just as it should be for us, just as it is and we've seen for others. There should be no victim blaming and shaming, but we should be looking at ways to support, mothers, partners, birthing people, their families, their partners. I love how you shared that, Kairis, and I'll come back to that of, what you shared about even the journey for the dad. So did you both, I would like for you to just go back and outline specifically what services you offer as a doula. How do you identify yourself?
I identify as a full spectrum doula. That was the way that we were brought into to practice more than 20 years ago. And I love that the younger generation, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I love that the younger generation has refined the craft into specialties, because it means that as a society, we hold space for that. We hold space for people to do the things that they love the most, that they're the best at. But I provide support from pre-pregnancy. I heard Breyonna mention people calling when they're planning ahead. It's like, hey, I want to get pregnant next year and have a baby the year after. All the way through pregnancy, birth, postpartum, lactation, community resources. As working with Blue Shield, my position is called a community doula health advocate. Blue Shield has community health advocates that do the in-between supports, the connection of resources. So you know, where before as a doula, you're running around with your head cut off, trying to get your person into stable housing so that CPS is not looking at them for custody of their baby when they deliver because she's a teenager and had a fight with her mom and fell out and all of this. Now it's like officially a thing to be able to have relationships with the different resources and agencies that are in the community, that are in her neighborhood, like connecting her to whatever makes sense for her situation. Mama Cat's assignment to us, and Adjoa, you know this, was whatever it takes. That's the job description, whatever it takes. It's taking more and more now. And so it is responsible to make referrals to organizations or individuals who have resources that they can connect, so that I can keep doing what I do best, which is the birth work. And yes, you come to know who does what. Note for anybody who wants to become a doula, get to know the people, not just the organizations in your area, but somebody inside there, a point person where you can call and say, hey girl, this is Kairis. I got somebody that doesn't live in your zip code, but she needs a stroller. Can you do an agency to agency donation or whatever that is? Like, get to know the person who does the thing. And so one of the services that I have offered, and again, I'm so excited seeing Breyonna and mentioning the same thing. The running joke was that I'm a doula, so I can't afford one, right? Because so much of the work is community work, right? And as the amazing Nakia Michelle says, we do it for the outcome, not the income. You go and you do the work because it needs to be done, because there are babies that would not enter into the world with somebody celebrating that fact, with somebody having their best interest as their primary guiding principle. To be able to do that work means sometimes you have to figure out other things, other hustles, right? So Kairis braids hair, Kairis will cater, Kairis will sell jewelry, Kairis will do all the things that allow her the freedom to show up at a birth. Even if you call me at 8 centimeters dilated, having twins, and you're there by yourself and I've never met you before, right? And that sounds crazy, but it's a real life scenario. Like, it's not a thing that has only even happened once, right? So the service that I offer is that guiding principle of whatever it takes. But if I were to write it down on a resume, I would say full spectrum doula. I'm there for labor planning, support, birth planning, support, postpartum planning, support, lactation support, and planning.
I love that. I love that. I'm making me a little note thing. Thank you, Kairis. Breyonna, would you like to add to that? Share, and then I have a couple questions that have come up.
Yeah, of course. Thank you again. So I am a birth doula, I'm a postpartum doula, and placenta encapsulation specialist. But yeah, really, that's kind of full spectrum, right? Like, we do a lot of different things, right? And again, like she said, kind of whatever it takes. You know, you find that each family situation is really unique. So again, yeah, some families call and they're like, I'm in labor now. Is there any way you can come and support me?
Yeah.
So yeah, really, again, kind of whatever it takes. But yeah, those are the titles that I go by.
Thank you, and I'm glad you shared that. One of the things too we like to add on is that there is a spectrum, especially now with Roe v. Wade, is looking at the abortion doulas as well as the grief doulas for those who have had loss. You know, I met a sister that runs an organization on the East Coast called Sisters in Loss, and they're, you know, comprised of several doulas too. And so I think it's important that we, you know, are able to share with folks where, you know, you can fall in the spectrum of work and how you can support. I also want to, there was one other thing I was going to highlight, see how things just trying to come through your head and go off to different spaces. But I really appreciate your sharing and, you know, staying in the work and staying committed, because you're right. There is, especially since COVID happened, you know, the spectrum of work has changed tremendously. Being able to be very familiar with the resources in your community, being able to connect friends and family members that, you know, once they find out, oh, they're calling, We got folks going up on billboards in LA, so now they're going to get more calls about their work, you know, as doulas or as leaders in the work and how to connect families. So I thank you both for that and getting in the work of advocacy. I'll come back to one of the questions first. I'll go to is because I was talking about how was your work affected? How did COVID-19 affect your profession? If you both want to answer one, that's fine.
It broke my heart. It broke my heart. Like, I literally grieved with the very first couple having their first baby, having to go to the hospital without me. While in the course of educating, you know, you think you're thorough, you think you've covered everything, but you almost don't worry about it because if you miss something, you're going to be there. And I couldn't be there. And so like I lost sleep over the idea. Now, mind you, they had a perfect natural labor. Dad was doing all the things. He had his mama on one device. He had doula on the other device. He's coaching mama. He's holding legs. He's doing, you know, all of the things, and they got through. But it was a lot for him. It was a lot for him. And so I have this awareness now that dads need to be so much more prepared, because what if? Right? We're coming into the cold season. People are going to be hacking and whacking. The whole planet had the cooties for 2.5 years, right? So that it was devastating, but yet that hard stop and that full reset showed us that for all the things that kind of built themselves, all the people that were like, hey, I don't actually have to work for somebody else. I can start a business, or I can open my foundation, or I can do all these other things I didn't have time to do before because I was busy. And now there's not busy, there's just intention, right? And being intentional. But our birth statistics didn't have the same positive outcome. They didn't have the same shift. And so in that sense, that full circle of remembering why, remembering how, that we have to be innovative, that we have to be creative, that we have to figure out how to get these babies out on the Underground Railroad, because the whole thing was shut down. And God is good, because with this new program, with this new pilot program, the very first family to be referred to me for my caseload was that same family that went into pregnancy without me, went into labor with me having to be on the phone. And they had a beautiful set of twins. And it was, you know, just like this full circle, like it's okay. And those COVID babies, oh my goodness, I had t-shirts made, the COVID baby boom, because they're all there was for people to do was find each other during the lockdowns. And so we had the first lockdown wave of babies, and then we had the second lockdown wave of babies where people really believed it, right? The first time we were like, not doing the lockdown thing, but some folks did. And then that second wave, we really saw what was happening. And so there was even another secondary wave, like back labor contractions. You got that first wave and then that second wave within the same contraction. So there were lots of babies to support. I want to say that first year, it wasn't a full year, but the first portion of that work was like 38 families, supporting 38 families. And so it changed, it refined the focus. It redetermined the effort, the work to put in, right? I mean, a birth is never the same job twice. Anybody will tell you that, whether they are giving birth or whether they're coaching birth, it is never the same job twice. But certainly COVID made it very, very clear that even in the worst of circumstances, Black and brown mamas, Black mamas in particular, are going to find themselves at the bottom of the worst of circumstances. I don't think people understood the damage that it does to relationships for someone to have to choose between their mother and their husband or their partner, and who's coming to the birth, or nobody coming to the birth, or I guess these hospitals are trying to figure it out on the fly too. Doula could come to labor and delivery, but not be in postpartum. And it's like, well, wait, how does that work? And then, you know, you can't come in, or you can come in, you're part of the care team, you're not a part of the care team. So it forced us to really, really get clear on our roles. Like, you know, we are part of care teams and need to be respected as such, especially with there being so many new gaps now that medical providers are not able to fill just because of safety and protocols. We
Yeah.
had to learn things, right? We learned things like people don't know how to wash their hands. Like, we learned a lot of things in this crisis. So while it was crazy, the extreme heat and pressure created a precious stone. It created a gem. It created something valuable.
Thank you for that. Yeah, many of us have found that and figured that. I want to ask Breyonna the same question, then I have a follow-up question for you, Breyonna. Thank you for that, Kairis, because it was very detailed and yeah, what many of us are aware of, some experience and some we're not. You're on mute, Breyonna.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So for me, it's very interesting because yes, I'm a doula, but I also had my second daughter during the pandemic, and it was really, you know, tug and pull because it was my husband's first baby, and we weren't sure if he was going to be able to be in the hospital. And I didn't, again, have enough money to hire a midwife to have a home birth. And so I found myself being sick and frustrated, right? Hyperemesis, all of that, you know, while then trying to see if I could scrape together the money for a midwife, seeing if there's an available midwife, is, you know, trying to get myself sort of a, you know, a backup. Really, I really wanted a home birth initially, but again, right, money being that barrier. So for me, it was really frustrating because I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to be in there. In fact, he sat outside the hospital for 4 hours as we tried to figure out whether or not he was going to be able to be in there or not. And I had to tell my team, you know, look, if my husband can't come, I'm going to leave, like, because he is my support and I can't imagine doing this without anyone. My first birth, my mother was there, my daughter's father was there. And so again, I had some support there, but I just couldn't see myself going through that alone. And it made me think of all the families that had reached out to me that were scared to do it by themselves. Not everybody has, you know, a partner to go through that. They don't necessarily have, you know, a mom or dad or sister or uncle or friend that can be with them at the time. So it's pretty daunting to try to do that by yourself. And so I found myself really frustrated because it seemed as if the hospitals didn't quite know what they wanted to do. And I promise you, I would call each hospital multiple times in the day and get different answers as to whether I was allowed to be in there. You know, I had a birth actually going on and I had to be outside of the hospital for hours because, you know, they weren't sure if I, you know, had the qualifications to be in the space during the time. I, you know, came prepped with my vaccination card, extra mask, you know, all of that sort of stuff, keeping myself safe, you know, and, you know, far away from COVID as I could to try to still be healthy to support the families. But even that wasn't enough. And so again, finding myself really frustrated. And I know if I'm frustrated as a doula, I can only imagine what these families are feeling like, especially when you've worked with these clients and they're expecting you. They're expecting you to show up and you've given them that sort of promise that you're going to be there to support them, especially through the actual delivery. So not being able to be there, that was extremely frustrating. I was so enraged at the rudeness that I had to face from nurses, doctors, administration staff, people not calling you back, not emailing you back when you're just trying to be updated on their policies so that way you can best serve the families that you're committed to serving. So again, it was extremely frustrating. And again, I am a Black mother. I understand that there are certain barriers that we as Black people face. And again, it's scary sometimes going into the hospital, into unfamiliar territory with, you know, staff that is, you know, unaware of your situation. They don't know you and they really, you know, I hate to say it, sometimes they don't really care. about you and your well-being or the well-being of your baby. So it was hard because then you get families calling and they're like, well, we want a doula, but we've heard that doulas aren't, allowed in the hospitals. And I think it really just showed that there was sort of a disconnect between the doula community and then the hospital, knowing that, yes, we're sort of in partnership, at least here in the Valley, but we're not really connected. We're like two separate entities. So that was hard to explain to families that, yes, I do get to work in the hospitals when they let me, but I don't work for the hospital. So that's also why the information that I have and the information you get, sometimes it doesn't align. It doesn't really add up. And so, you had families, sort of frustrated at you because, yeah, go ahead.
One question is, so were you able to, some of us were able and colleagues were able to pivot with doing by phone conversations. And so, and then I'll go into another question on how you build, how are you working to build out the relationship with hospitals? But were you able to pivot to even offer that to your clients to be, go with them to their visits via phone, or, or even during the labor and delivery process if you weren't able to be in person?
Yes, I was able to be there by phone. In fact, my doula was there by phone, which was awesome. It wasn't exactly what I had planned for. And some of these families, again, didn't plan for that. But yes, I was able to support via video if their phone or, computer had that ability, which is also a barrier. Some people don't, have that. So that was another challenge to sort of work around. But yeah, I did my best to, still be able to try to call or video chat during their birth. And that was, I was happy to still be able to provide some services that way. But I know that still, to me, it's not enough. And I know some of these families still, it's almost kind of like they felt let down, to put it, another way. They really felt, let down, especially with the confusion amongst policy. So yes, I was able to do that. But to me, again, it didn't feel like it was enough. I felt like I could have done more. I should have been there in their space and sort of treated as, another part of the birth team, because I am in fact part of the birth team. So yes, again, I was able to over the service.
That for certain is something that we definitely need to work on. But sadly, even, beyond, and COVID just did a number on people, even beyond the birthing space, there were spaces where, folks, family members were, made to die on their own, made to not get the support and services. Folks, I've had stories of colleagues, whose people, went in for something, they never saw them for hours. They were waiting in the ER like lobby area and died right there on the on the gurney. And so, yeah, I think that is one of the reasons why we look at in some of our work is how do we build out the relationship with these hospital systems. But I want to go back to a question that some folks had about your training, where there's two. You mentioned certification. Is that required, and is it expensive or a barrier to provide care to families?
So there are two things. There's doula training, and then there's doula certification. There is no one broad sweeping education system for doulas, and there are as many types of training almost as there are types of doulas. The training that we offer through Birthing Project USA is your initial intensive, and then your requirements for certification follow in the 12 to 18 months afterwards. Expensive is relative, because if you don't have $1, it's a lot of money. If you have $1,000 and you need $1 million, $1,000 is not a lot of money. So it ranges by the training. Pretty much they all have the general components of the physiology of birth, the sociology of birth, all of those elements. You understand what is happening inside of the body, the fetal development, comfort measures, medications, hospital protocols, as much as they changed every 4 minutes during COVID. I literally was at a birth and the policy changed while I was there. It was like, it was this whole weird thing I found. Yes. So the trainings depend on the agency that you're being trained through. Plug, Orthopedic USA has a training coming up very, very soon. So if you want to find my email somewhere, hit me up. The idea is that doula work is, you can take a training, but you cannot be trained into a calling. You cannot be trained into a purpose. Doulas are born, not made. And so you should use every resource you have to find the type of training that makes sense for you for cultural competency, cultural relevancy, cultural humility, to provide service for the community that you work in. There may be a great training somewhere that does not at all relate to the folks that you intend to serve. And so that may mean extra work for a community doula. That may mean you need to do multiple trainings just so that you have all of the types of skills and knowledge and know-how and connection and resources to provide the best support and advocacy for your client base.
Okay. Kairis, please do me a favor and drop your information in the chat. Some folks want to know about the certification and services that you mentioned. I will say this before I go to my other question with Breyonna, is that also I would encourage you that if you're very interested, there are some programs that, because we want to really look at Black birthing justice and justice in birthing for people of color, that are offering training for folks to participate in and attend so that they can become certified as a doula. You know, we really, I think more of the certification, because there have been trainings going on for decades, but more of the certification has come around, especially because of this Medi-Cal expansion and looking at ways to, you know, which is, you know, many folks here are doing a lot of work behind the scenes. I know Kairis is, I know Shantae is, I, you know, participate as I can, Michelle Sanders. There's a lot of folks here that are doulas and advocates that are really working behind the scenes to make sure that process in Medi-Cal expansion does not overwhelm and overtake any of the doulas that have been doing work or would like to and be, you know, supported with a reasonable living wage, well beyond what we started seeing at first. Breyonna, the question is, in your role as a CHW, your training and experience, has that really helped you to be able to provide resources and referrals for families?
Yes, certainly. I feel like it was really eye-opening to become a community health worker. I had heard about community health workers, but really wasn't sure how to become one. But during the pandemic, you know, I was a community health worker and working with families specifically around COVID, while I was also a doula. It was really eye-opening to see that people really, really have needs. And sometimes they don't know where to go. They're pregnant with COVID and, you know, they need resources, or, you know, their, you know, grandparent now has COVID and, you know, they're elderly, they're sick. You know, so again, to me, it was eye-opening. And to me, it made me want to work even harder to try to locate resources. I found myself reaching out to peers that I had graduated with that I knew were doing different work around the community, not necessarily around birth, but around housing and food insecurity and things like that. So yeah, it definitely helped to prepare me for some of the needs that families had. And then again, it made me sort of reflect on the needs that I had, which kind of made me want to go even harder, because I'm like, whoa, those are things that I actually need currently. So not only did it help me to serve the families that I was working with, it also helped me as a resource for myself and my family. So yes, it was, it definitely helped to prepare me.
Yeah, you know what? You raised a very valid point, Breyonna, is that, and I've said this a lot in the work, because I started out with the Black Infant Health Program, the first Black Infant Health Program in LA County back in the 90s. And, you know, I was a teen mom and I had just graduated college. And then, you know, I went from community health worker to perinatal health educator. So when we, you know, started doing this work, it was, you know, easy for me to transition into learning more about becoming a doula because I have been doing, similar work and advocacy a long time. But we fall in the lines of being servant, right, and client. So it is not that hard, especially when we know what has happened in these last 400 plus years to the descendants of African slaves here in America. And the low wages, I think a week ago or almost a week ago, it was the National Living Wage Day, or, and showing how we, even with all the education and experience, we still get paid less than, white men, white women, who don't always have education and haven't obtained those degrees. So, it is imperative that, like you said, you're learning for yourself, for others, but you might be learning for yourself. You might be learning for family members and friends. So I love that you share that. I know that I just want to see if there's any questions from the community, because we're going to wrap up in about 5 minutes or so, and then allow the queens to do whatever closeout they want to. But are there any folks in the room that have any specific questions? Or, you might even drop in, hey, as a doula or as a community health worker or as a parent, I would like to hear more discussions on various topics in the future, and you can drop those in the chat as well. But is there anyone with a question, a comment? We still have room. I'm grateful.
Hi, Nancy. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, my name is Salah. I'm a full spectrum doula. I used to live in the Bay. Most of my clients are in the Bay. I'm also a doula on the Frontline Doulas Hotline. And since I've been in the area, I was able to take care of a client in Madeira. But how do I get more clients in the Central Valley as opposed to traveling so far?
I don't know if either one of you want to answer that. I'm like such a big person on outreach and engagement, but since you guys are in that area and I'm in Southern California, you might want to answer the queen.
For me, I would say when I first started, honestly, like it was really hard. It was really, really hard. It seemed almost unnecessarily hard. It's like, I know I have a service to offer. I know I have these skills, but it seemed really hard. So for me, I started with some friends that I knew that were pregnant. They just happened to be pregnant around that time. So I definitely worked with some friends and family, and they helped to spread the word. I did try to connect with other doulas here in the area, but I found, how do I say it? They just weren't well receiving. And it was for a host of different reasons. A lot of it was because I didn't look like them. I was younger than them. I had a different skill set. I had different education, and not everyone was friendly and receptive to that. I have a website. That was something that was really important for me to get going, a website. I passed out flyers, like you name it, I did it. Anytime that people had questions or hosted an event, and they knew that I had a particular skill set, I tried to make myself available to be at those meetings and presentations. I went to Art Hop. Yeah, and it's kind of just taken off from there. But for me, honestly, it was a long process. I'm not gonna lie. I kept myself available to go on interviews with families. And that was really, really great. But I did have to sort of occupy myself in the meantime. But yeah, definitely for me, the outreach was huge. Getting a chance to meet with Shantae, and some of the other folks that were here already sort of doing the work. So I was, oh man, so blessed to be able to do that. But yeah, try to be at different events if you can. Sometimes I know they have Facebook groups. I can't think of them off the top of my head. I'm so sorry. Reach out to me and I can share some of the Facebook groups. And sometimes they have like meet and greets with other doulas. Again, I'm at least here in the Valley as of right now, I'm really sort of leery of going to those meet and greets because again, I found myself, I just felt so different than the other doulas. But again, I still say go be in those spaces. Because you'll hear, different things, different opportunities. Sometimes some doulas will say, hey, I'm booked, try Breyonna, reach out to her organization. So I've had referrals that way. I tried to be very intentional with talking to different doctors' offices, and seeing if I could leave my business cards. Even at some of the ultrasound places that do the ultrasounds, I tried to be in contact with them. Again, I don't know, for me, it was a little slow here in the Valley, a little discouraging, to be quite honest. But again, I'm always a resource. And right now I'm completely booked. So there are people that reach out to me. So drop your information or reach out to me, because I am happy to refer people your way. Like, in fact, I know there are other doulas out there, but I'm like, I want to refer to someone Black. I want to be able to really support my community. So use me. Yeah, exactly. Use me. Call me. If you need clients, I will forward emails to you. I will give them your number, your email address. I am happy to do that.
Listen, I want to say this. I thought about when you said something, Abuja. And who knows the response to Abuja? Because if you saw Woman King, you know the response. Wesu. And the issue is this. Then you get with a united, what I learned from the movie, if you didn't see it, I recommend you go see it. It's the unity. It's the coming together. So having like-minded individuals, having Black and BIPOC, and even, we have, our, white brothers and sisters that are doing the work, but finding the network, your network, because yes, I am one, I'm a big proponent, Breyonna. I don't go where I'm not celebrated. I don't go where I'm just tolerated. I got to go where I'm celebrated, where I'm welcome, where it's going to be a joyous occasion. And we have enough of us here to build that network. We have to stay a united front. We may do things differently, but our goal should be to save the lives of Black moms and babies, to support a healthy pregnancy, birthing, and journey, to stem the tide of lies that say we do not know how to birth, raise, and love on our children, that the fathers are not present. And like Kairis was saying, it's very important for these men to be aware of a lot of the risk factors, for them to be present, for us to have conversations around loss with our brothers and with our families as well. Because someone didn't speak on it does not mean that they're not suffering. Because it was our bodies doesn't mean that they aren't suffering from the loss that you had, whether it was a stillbirth, whether it was a termination, whether it was, a miscarriage. We have to be a better group of folks in order to do what is necessary for us to really win and change these numbers. Kairis, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I think you touched on one of the critical pieces of why it's oil and water. And it's because there are other groups that that doula work is not a life or death matter, right?
Yeah,
and so it's not survival mode, right? It's not that. We go in literally just to keep folks from dying. When you do that initial interview, why do you want to doula? I don't want to die, right? And so if that's not your crisis, it's very hard to relate to somebody being that intense, that whatever. To the young lady who asked about networking and finding clients, I find that for all the formal systems that are out there, all the websites, all the things, it's relationship. When I became a doula in Sacramento, if you said Black doula, you were only speaking of one of three people. I was one of them, right? And so the community has sort of kind of grown up learning what a doula was, watching the three as we train more, as we bring them in. And literally, I can get every kind of client in the world through the formal systems, but I always get Black mamas and babies from the community, right? They trust me with their own. And so whoever you know, I have literally doula clients who are training to become doulas because of that experience. So this is sustainable work, right? We can train ourselves to support ourselves. Ajwa, you said we are the client and we are the service provider, right? Because I am my sister's sister. So form those connections, make those relationships. All your friends should know what you do. They should all be able to explain it to somebody enough that they call you or text you or ask you a question. I'm gonna tell you, be careful, because if you know a little bit about one thing, people are gonna think you know everything about everything, right? But you'll find that you're able to point them in the right direction of the resources because you're in the trenches, right? and the resources that make sense. The other part, the other piece is the warm handoff. So if Adwa had somebody that she got a call from in Sacramento and she says, oh, there's Kairis, she's not just going to give them Kairis's number. She's going to say, hey, Kairis, I got you in a group text with this person and they're looking for, you know, what can you tell us? How can you support? Like that warm handoff piece is critical because people who are struggling just for survival have enough random strangers asking them all their business. Right? They have enough people who are looking at them like, you have Black skin, you have no business being pregnant. And I'm sorry, but that is literally the response for 99% of society to Black pregnancies. So those relationships are key and critical for building that client base wherever it is you want.
I think I want to say this too for folks to have a good understanding is that the other piece to that is that outreach. I've done outreach and engagement, like I said, for about 30 years in several of my businesses. I'm very good at sharing other people's work as well. And that's what you do. When we started, like a lot of the work I'm doing in LA County, people say, well, how did you get people to your meetings, right? Nobody's a stranger. Nobody is a stranger. A mother, a father, a Black man. I see you have a sister or brother who, I mean, you know, a family member who might, you know, be pregnant or parenting or expectant father on the way. This is a meeting for them. You know, you have to really engage and introduce yourself. One of the things we're going to put out for you all to take a look at and enjoy, we had Raina Granberry from California Black Women's Health Project to talk about, and I interviewed and spent time with her talking about the Black birth worker business toolkit that they created. So I encourage you to go to their website. I encourage you to go to their website. I'm laughing at Shantae's comment, but yeah, that's what you do. You spread the word. So you have to drop, you know, use your Instagram, your social media, your Twitter, go on LinkedIn. I drop in posts as I can, as much as I can remember. But that's my goal, is to engage. I'm what I call, before people were ever doing it, a network weaver, a connector, connecting people. I might not stay in the business with them. All I needed to do was connect those 2, 3, 4, however many folks together, and they continue to do the work, bringing people to the platform. And then finding out, can you introduce yourself? Go to the churches, the mosques, you know, where are we? Go to those places where we are and show forth thyself. And so that's what I would say to you, Sister Queen. I want to make sure I said it right. Selah.
Yes, she said it correctly. Thank you so much.
That's so interesting too, because my pastor did a whole big old message last night on Selah. So again, you know, some things just come full circle. Well, folks, you know, I'm going to allow Kairis and Breyonna to close out with any closing comments, how you can connect with them, and then look forward to more, you know, conversations from us. But sisters, do your thing.
Thank you. Thank you for trusting us with the most intimate aspect of life. Thank you for being courageous enough to ask for help when there's a need for help. It does not mean that anything is wrong or anything is broken, but in every field where there is success, there is someone there that guides through. There's a mentor, there's a coach, there's a somebody, and it's no different with birth. It's no different with parenting. So I don't take it lightly, the privilege of being able to witness miracles for a living. That is literally my job description. And there's no better position on the planet. And man, if you've got the call on your life, act on it.
Ashe, Ashe. Breyonna.
Yeah, I just want to say again, thank you to everybody for showing up, for taking the time to be here and getting to know us and some of the work that we do. It's greatly appreciated. I could have never imagined when I started that I'd be in this place that I am right now. Again, for me, it was so hard, and I had, you know, many moments where I just wanted to give up. I felt like I didn't belong. I started questioning myself, you know, whether I was capable, you know, to do the work. But I'm so happy that I just stopped, slowed down, you know, looked to my mentors, you know, my family, for guidance and kept, going and doing the work, whether that would be, to advance my education. Right now, I'm currently in an MPH program. So y'all wish me some luck, send some prayers my way, some positive energy, because it's hard. But, thank you just for showing up and again, asking those questions. Keep our contact information. I can put that in the chat. I'll put my phone number or at least my email address in there, so you guys reach out to me. I'm here. Again, I'm still learning, like many of us are still learning. And if there's something I can't help you with, I am so happy to do my best to point you in the right direction. But again, keep going. If you're a pregnant person, you're a father, you're a doula, you want to become a doula, you want to get into birth work in whatever capacity that you can, keep going. Keep going, even when it's hard, even when it's tough, even again, like I said, when you feel like you don't belong, when you look in the room and you're the only Black face, you're the only brown person, you're the only woman, keep going, because you have a place, you belong there, and there is somebody that is going to need what you have to offer. So just keep going.
Thank you so much, Queens. I asked you, your information is dropped in the chat. I did ask Michelle Sanders, who is a doula, and she dropped in the name of her organization in Southern California, Legacy Birth Pros, Family Support Consultants, but she's also written 2 books, Paying for Doula Support 101, and then also Flourishing in the 4th Trimester. We might have to see if we have time to bring Queen Michelle Sanders back for a conversation with you all as well. But again, thank you all for being here. We really appreciate you taking the time on a Thursday evening to sit with us. We know you have children and family and just rest to attend to. So we hope this was a benefit and a blessing. Please stay in contact with us, and we will see you again soon. Continue to do the great work that you do, but most importantly, continue to take care of yourself. As Kairis shared, we cannot pour from empty vessels. So I myself am going to get off of here and go take care of the health that I need to take care of. So again, appreciation, much obliged, and continue to be here with us. And again, partner up. Go see that film. It's so good. I don't care about the backstory. And sometimes we just need to learn about the unity of our people and how when we go together, we can win and go further than if we go alone. Peace and blessings, good people. Thank you. Kaka, did you drop in a link for the survey, or we did that already? Thanks again.